So about 5 or 6 years ago, I was preaching in the eastern part of the state that I'm from in the United States, and I was preaching a Friday night service, and then I was going to drive back home and be in church with our church on Sunday morning, then drive back for Sunday night at this church. So Friday night and Sunday night. And church started on Friday night at 7 o'clock, and about 3 minutes until 7, I pulled into the parking lot. And I was hurrying in. I put my briefcase in the pastor's office. He told me where his office was. And I set my things in there. And I slipped into the sanctuary and went up on the front row. And it was a small congregation, but oh my goodness, were they a worshiping people. And I was just enraptured. In fact, I found myself, Sister Downs, just kind of looking around, smiling. And by the way, if you ever see me up here in this conference, just look around smiling at you, it's not because I'm creepy. But your praise blesses me. And it strengthens me. I've seen some of y'all this week in the last 2 services, 2 night services, your praise, you don't even know it, but your praise has blessed me. And so I was just blessed in this service, and it was so powerful. And we got done with church, and I went back to the pastor's office after I was done preaching, and I called him by name. I said, Pastor, you have got a worship in church. You got a great group of people. And he said something to me that I was not prepared for. He said, well, thank you, Brother Gaddy. He said, but the truth of the matter is our best worshiper wasn't here tonight. I said, come again. He said, our best worshiper wasn't even here tonight. Now, we got a room with pastors in it here, and I have to confess something to you. I have never walked into our church one time and just inside of me, not outwardly, but inside of me thought, pretty good worshiper. Mediocre worshiper. Fairly good worshiper. Best worshiper. But that's what he told me. He said the best worshiper wasn't here. Now, in that moment, I got excited about Sunday night because he said, but now the best worshiper is going to be here Sunday night. He had to work tonight, but the best, he kept calling him the best worshiper. He said, the best worshiper will be here Sunday night. Well, I was cranked to come back and just watch the best worshiper worship. So I went back home, and we had church. We had good church on Sunday morning at home. And I got there early on Sunday night. And it was like I just had radar. I was walking around thinking, all right, where is he? Where is he? He's here somewhere. And we started church, and it wasn't hard at all to pick out the best worshiper. As soon as we started church, he's up in the front, and he's worshiping God. In full disclosure, he wasn't out of control. He wasn't acting foolish, but he was ever more worshiping God. And I mean, he's just worshiping and waving his hands. And in my mind, you have to understand what was going on inside of Tim. In my mind, I'm thinking, yeah, that's him right there. That's the best worshiper. That is the best worshiper right there. In fact, after church, I'm going to confirm this with Pastor. I'm going to describe what the brother was wearing, and he's going to be the best. I know that's the best worshiper. And while I am just enjoying watching the best worshiper worship, something caught my attention out of the corner of my eye. And I took my eyes off of the best worshiper and scanned to the other side of the altar. And there are 2 4-year-old twin boys that are up in this side of the altar. And when I tell you they are getting it worshiping, I mean holding nothing back, dressed identical, suits, ties, vests, just worshiping for all they're worth. And my attention, my mouth is just open. They're twin boys. They look identical, and you could see them while they were worshiping. They were in the spirit, but they were also in the flesh at the same time. Because every once in a while, one of them would cock their eye open at the other one to see kind of what the gauge was. And if the one brother thought his other brother was kind of ramping it up, he just kind of picked it up a little bit more. I watched as these two boys were just dancing up in the altar, and then they took off running around the church. And when one of them took off, the other one took off. And you know they're worshipers because they got around the side and they come up and stop right in the middle, and one of them just loosened his tie a little bit and took off running again. And I am just enraptured by these boys. And I managed to get up and preach that night, and I preached, and I had a great service, great move of the Holy Ghost. Went back to the office, and I said, Pastor, wow. I said, let me describe someone to you. And I just started describing the best worshiper. I said, is that the best? He goes, you got it. That's the best worshiper. You picked him out. And then I pivoted. I said, well, that's great. I'm glad I got to see the best worshiper, but I have a question for you. Tell me about the boys, the two little 4-year-old twin boys. What is their story? Because I could not take my eyes off of them. Yeah, the best worshiper's over here doing his thing, doing the best worship stuff. But they're over here doing the 4-year-old worship stuff. And I said, tell me the story. What is the story with those boys? And I will never forget that pastor looked at me like I did not have a brain. He said, you mean the twin boys? I said, yes. Suits, vests, ties, dress shoes, runners. Those boys. He said, you're talking about the two boys that were up in the altar the whole time we were worshiping. I said, yes. What's the story? He said, are you serious? And like by this time I'm getting a little perturbed at him. I said, yes, I need to know what's the story about the boys. He said, those boys are the sons of the best worshiper. Oh, I want something to get in our spirit on Friday night. I want you to see yourself for who you need to be. We are worshipers of the one true living God. It's a garment we wear. It's a garment we wear. Dad, can I tell you something? That garment of worship was meant for you, but it was meant for your boys too. That garment of worship, mama, was meant for you, but it was meant for your daughters too. It was designed with multiple generations in mind. He wants this thing to go on and on and on and on and on.